Okay, excellent. Thank you everyone for joining and welcome to the CF webinar on financial inclusion and the role of payment systems. My name is Simona Bleska and I work as a program facilitator at the Center of Excellence in Finance here in Ljubljana. Today I will be guiding you on this learning journey that will last in total of 19 minutes. Before continuing to the content, I will inform you that this webinar will be recorded and the recording will be available to you on the CF website as well as on the CF cloud kind of Dropbox where you can be able to download it together with all the materials from today's webinar. First, let's stick to the technical guidelines. As I have seen, you are all connected and muted. If not, please click on the call using computer button so that the circle becomes blue. And if you did this right, you will be able to see your name on the list of the participants on the right side. We also urge you to turn on your camera so that we can see you. At the right down corner, you will find the chat box where you can share your questions, thoughts, and comments. Be careful, select send to everyone so that everyone can see your messages. Thank you. We finish with this technical stuff, and we will continue with the agenda of the webinar. First of all, I would like to introduce you with our learning community. After that, I will present you our experts that we have today from the Dutch Central Bank and from the National Bank of Macedonia, where they will let more about financial inclusion, the role of the payment systems in their countries, and will share their national experiences. And at the very end of the webinar, we will have a short question and answer session. So, thank you for joining. We have more than 40 registered applicants for this webinar, which are coming from 13 countries and from 3 continents, which I'm really pleased to have you. Also, the institutions that the participants are representing is really wide. We have participants from central banks, from ministries of finance, from ministries for economic development, insurance supervision agencies, etc., etc. We are glad to have you here. So now we will start with the webinar. But before continuing, I would like to thank to the Bank of Slovenia, which is the main donor of the central banking program at the CEF, as well as the Dutch Central Bank and the National Bank of Macedonia for the support that they provide for this webinar. So the content. Today we have 3 experts. The first 2 are Mr. Michael van Duveren, a senior policy advisor from the Dutch Central Bank. He works at the Payments Policy Department, and today we also have his colleague Judith Luhmann, who is a policy advisor in the same department at the Dutch Central Bank. They will talk today about financial inclusion, about the elements of a good strategy of financial inclusion should have. They will also raise the topic about financial education, financial resilience, and financial behavior in the Netherlands. So I would like, before continuing, I would like to inform you that Michael will be presenting there, but Judith is, we are pleased to have it here, and she will be dealing with the questions. So if you have any comments and questions, you will be really glad to answer them. So Michael, let's start with your presentation. I will now it. Just a second, pause.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning to you all, and thank you, Simona, for this nice and kindly introduction. I'm with this cooperation, happy to cooperate with the Center of Excellence in Finance again, and happy to cooperate with the National Bank of the Republic of Macedonia. So it is really a joint effort, this webinar. In the past, we have given a lot of workshops at the CEF, but it's great to have now a webinar dedicated to financial and digital inclusion. Indeed, Simona, I'm very happy that there are people from 30 countries, even from Jordan, Bangladesh, Morocco, Georgia. Absolutely very good that you're all here. But would you go to the next slide? Yeah. But this is the agenda. We would like to deal with 7 subjects from our side. First, I would like to elaborate a little bit about financial and digital inclusion. Then new figures from the global Fintech database. This is absolutely a very important database. It was published in May, the latest figures, and I hope to give you some insights in them. I would elaborate on building blocks for a strategy for financial inclusion. Of course, every country has its own needs with respect to financial inclusion, but there are absolutely worldwide common elements in it. This is also the same with the very important PAFI report, the Payments Aspects of Financial Inclusion report. It's a report of the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, in this case, the Committee of Payments and Markets Infrastructures, and the World Bank group together. Then I focus a little bit about the needs in the Netherlands, and I would like to give you some building stones for building an index, how to measure financial inclusion, and we have some conclusions. Next. Yeah. What is financial inclusion? I think full financial inclusion, and this definition is based on international standards. There's not a worldwide standard, or not from the United Nations, because they developed the Sustainable Development Goals, but some elements are important. Full financial inclusion is a state in which people and also firms can use, have access to a full range of financial services at an affordable price, so not too expensive, and a good quality. That's in a nutshell the definition. And if you look to this definition, then we explore 3 dimensions in it. Next slide. Yeah, one is of course accessibility. For the Netherlands, I think accessibility is at the moment not the best problem, but if we place payment systems in the center, because payment systems and payment instruments are the departing point for reaching other financial instruments like mortgages or like saving products or like pensions, then it all starts with entering the payment system. So dimension 1. The second dimension is that you need knowledge. People knowledge how to use, for example, a debit card. Please keep your PIN code safe. That's absolutely important that you have safe and secure access to the payment world. So education is absolutely important. The third dimension is that you are aware about the risks and that you can show the good behavior and that you react a response to things, for example. For example, it is very important that you know if you buy a mobile and you say yes, that in the end you have to pay all the 3 installments. So resilience, knowing risks is very important. Next slide, please. Today, and I will speak later about the trends in society, we see that it's more the fact that we are very dependent from computers today, and we all people have a smartphone, that means that digital inclusion is also becoming more important. And digital inclusion is the ability of people and also groups to have access and use information communication technologies. See again the three dimensions: access, application, and adoption. And if you have these three dimensions, you can really use digital tools for inclusion. Next slide, please. And of course, they have their own world, digital inclusion and financial inclusion, because digital inclusion is much broader than financial inclusion. It means also how people can watch television or how people can take a train, for example. There are so many digital tools to have they function in your normal daily life. Inclusion means, of course, access to financial products. So the challenge of this year is, I think, how to stimulate digital financial inclusion, the intersection between, and it's becoming more and more important because people are more and more dependable from new techniques. Next slide, please. It's of digital financial inclusion, and we have some aspects that are important. First, of course, access to a full suite of financial services, not only payments. It starts with payments, but also insurance products, credit products, saving products, pensions, mortgages, etc. The second is that it should be provided with quality. It should be easy to use, and process it's not too expensive. People could afford it, and provide it with a certain dignity and also client protection. That case seller misuse his position, that consumers are well protected. Is that it is for everyone who can use financial services. And at the moment we know there are a lot of vulnerable groups worldwide. I think special attention should be paid to people living in villages, rural people with that are impaired, disabilities. Due to tax, often financial affairs is a matter of men instead of women, but I think it is more and more important that also that women have access to financial products. And slide, please. And I think the very important 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations of 2015 to 2030. It's important that clients are informed and able to make good money management decisions. This again, the second and third dimension of financial and digital inclusion. And it is also important that there is a good marketplace, that there's competition, that people can choose which bank they would like to open an account, for example, and that a robust financial infrastructure and clear regulatory framework. These are elements that we will also see in the PAFI report. In the bottom, the illustration of the very important SDGs, and I say that financial inclusion is at least represented in 7 or 8 of them. Okay, next slide, please. To the latest figures that were published in May in the Global Fintech database. This is a database published by the World Bank Group, and they collect a number of statistics. And the one of the main Fintech database of this edition. Every 3 years, a new edition will be published. Is that approximately 70% of adults around the world have an account. And of course, see that in the Western world, the percentage is higher. And you can see that in the parts of South America, Africa, and Asia, it's lower, but it's absolutely improving. Because 3 years ago, still 2 billion people had no access via a payment account, and it's only 1.7 billion people around the globe. And we will give some moment. You see that also the number of bank accounts has been improved, but with the mobile money accounts, for illustration, here we focus on Africa. Unfortunately, we have no figures from Morocco, but you see that here the situation is really improving in case that more people will have their mobile phone than having a bank account. Next slide, please. So you see the division around the world, that what are the countries where people have less bank accounts than in other countries. Of course, we see it in India, we see it in China, we see it in Brazil, that are, I think, the most big challenges. We see it in countries of Asia, and it's absolutely improving. I think that's the good news of the global Fintech database of 2017. Next slide. We also see that 2/3 of the unbanked adults have a mobile phone. That's news, because via a smartphone, in fact, you have access to your bank, so that's and you can pay, of course. So the bank is to you instead that people are going to the bank office, and we all know that schemes like the M-Pesa schemes worldwide is an easy way to pay remittances to somebody else in another country. Next. Here we focus a little bit on certain elements, but I think it is interesting that about 235 people that are unbanked still receive agricultural payments in cash. This situation will change hopefully in the future if they have a bank account, and several reasons why they are paid in cash, but you to it later. Please, next slide. This is good news that approximately this is also a situation that can be altered in the coming years. That is that people still pay around the world utility bills in cash. An office of the electricity company, or to a telephone company or gas company, to in cash. And I think we need awareness, and we need policy of governments that this situation will be improved in the next 10, 20 years. Next slide, please. Here, good news that more and more governments are making people's the salaries, for example, to people primarily into accounts. For example, but in Turkey, but also in Russia, more and more people in Kazakhstan are receiving their wages from the government into an account instead of only. Next slide, please. Thousands of data, 10,000s of data in this But I'm now to the World Bank, and you can find this publication has been published at the website of the World Bank Group. This publication, you can find it, Global Fintech Database, published in May 2018. If we look to the World Bank is implementing a part of the policy of the United Nations with respect to the SDGs. Then the pragmatic aim is that the World Bank states that we hope that more people, 2020 is already rather soon, it was the goal they launched in 2015, that by 2030 adults globally have access to an account or an electric instrument. Here coming again, this is the smartphone for money sent or received payments. That even without a bank account, you have access to payment systems. Besides of the central banks, we think it's the most it's the convenient way that people have bank account, because then they also have access to other financial products. This next slide, please. And of course, we have the advantage in the Netherlands that our Queen Maxima, she is special advocate of the Secretary General for inclusive finance for development. That she is she's global, very active in promoting financial inclusion. And I can recommend that her annual report, a special advocate. This financial inclusion report that was published in September this year. It's very beautiful illustrated, but it also states that it becomes more and more important that we will promote digital inclusion. Next slide. If we are building a strategy, and the strategy can differ from country to country, but we think that there are worldwide 4 important trends in economy and society to take on board. The first trend is that we have a lot of innovations due to digitization of financial services. We have contactless payments. We are getting in Europe more and more in the coming years instant payments or fast payments that you direct the money, and innovations can absolutely stimulate inclusion, but the side of innovations is that they have also risk in them, and that certain groups of vulnerable people, if you are physical dependent, have no access to the payments industry anymore. And of course, due to its collective owned good character of payments, it's very important that all people will have and keep access. The second is that we see that financial products are becoming more and more complex. And the have the responsibility to see the consumers has the responsibility to discover how products works, and of course should be well informed by the factorers. But in any case, it's sometimes complex. The third thing is that we have the use of big data for more personalized financial services. And this means that due to the data that, for example, your insurance company could say, hey, Michael, you're into less sports. I have to raise your premium for your health care insurance. And in case you are doing a lot of dangerous sports like ski, or like driving, for example, your payment premium should also be raised. So more and more we will see that the use of big data from financial products that will be used for financial services. And the business, of course, what do you think about the privacy of the people? Are you protected of elements? And I think it is linked with the SDGs and also with the Paris Agreement, that people are aware about the risk of the future for our planet. The warming risk, the water risk in the future. So people would like that they have more accounts for banks. Green banking is becoming more important, and that we have also a durable relation in payment products. So sustainability is a fourth trend that I would like to mention, that is important for thinking about a strategy for financial inclusion. Next slide, please. Our policymakers, and we would like to develop a strategy for financial inclusion. It is absolutely with awareness. Knowledge. How can you stimulate awareness that people know what is a payment account and how will access? Ability is the second dimension. If people know how a payment products and other financial products work and they have access, but do they behave in the right direction? Do they know how much they can have, how much money they can borrow from a bank? And of course, bank has certain standards. It's really important that if you open a bank account, that you are aware that you also have to pay it back. The fourth dimension is that payment solutions will be lasting, this will be sustainable, and that it will serve entrepreneurship of the people, especially in a lot of countries. We have more and more people working as a small company, and for them it is important that they will get loans or payment facilities, that their entrepreneurship will be stimulated. A fifth dimension is the global and regional elements, of course. We have the regional elements of, take for example, a country as Indonesia. It is really important that there's a lot of difference between towns and villages. And the first requirement is that there will be electricity on a lot of islands. And without electricity, it's hardly possible to establish and to build a bank with an ATM, for example. People only can get money if they are getting inside the bank. For inclusion, it is very important that there is cooperation. Cooperation between stakeholders, public stakeholders and private stakeholders. They all cooperate from the supply side and the demand side. This, in a nutshell, are the building blocks that we used in our strategy for the Netherlands. We will publish in coming weeks a strategy for financial inclusion in English. It's already published in Dutch on our website. The coming weeks we will publish this in English as well, and you can use it for your country. Next slide, please. Payments. Payments are a little bit, yeah, look, for understanding how payments work, it's very important to think in chains, supply side and demand side. For example, here we see the four-corner model. If you have a buyer and a seller, it's important that they have a bank. Otherwise, you can't do an electronic payment. As for example, a card payment, it's important that banks will have a connection. And the money flow from buyer, he is getting the goods. The money flow from the buyer has to go to the seller. Then, and the banks are different. Then you need clearing. And in the corner model, it states that you have the buyer, you have the seller, you have the bank of the buyer, bank of the seller, and clearing is needed in case that the banks will differ. And today, these are all retail payments. Retail payments will be settled in an RTGS system, a real-time gross settlement system of a central bank. It could be Macedonia. There, the National Bank of the Republic of Macedonia will settle during certain cycles, batch payments, the retail payments. And we have that too. We have the firm Equens Worldline that's responsible for the clearing of retail payments, and these kinds of retail payments will be settled during the day in the Target 2 system of the European Central Bank, and the Nederlandse Bank is part of that system. Next, please. The first was on how works payment systems. Now we focus on why payment aspects of financial inclusions are important. And this report of the BIS, it was published in 2016 already, but it's discussed. The report status has two departing points. Departing point of the report, and all experts of the international system agreed about it, is that efficient and accessible and safe retail payment systems and services are critical for greater financial inclusion. And the second observation is that the transaction account, the basic bank account, is a very essential financial services. And it embodies it. People have access to electronic payments, and they have also a gateway to other financial services. Next, please. A transaction account is the cornerstone for providing electronic payment services. And the advantage is if you have a good network for providing electronic payment services, then people are becoming less dependent from cash. Cash is until today often the only option that is available for a lot of people, but for efficiency and other reasons, for speed, for security, for accessibility, it would be wise if people have more alternatives than only cash. And so the cost of cash handling are bigger than the cost of a debit card. Absolutely. Worldwide, central banks are promoting the use of electronic payment devices, but all people. So important to take that also vulnerable groups will have access to payment accounts. definition of a transaction account. What is exactly a transaction account? Why is it not a saving account? That transaction accounts are accounts held with banks, because banks are licensed, authorized or regulated service providers. That the banks, we see more and more that banks are upcoming, but they are also licensed, often central bank, and then be the deposit transaction accounts or e-money accounts. And transaction accounts can be used to make and receive payments and to store value. That's the difference with normal saving accounts. Because a saving account, you can't pay from a saving account your daily shopping. And therefore, we have the payment account. Next, please. But I hope you agree that if you have a national payment system, it will serve, it will stimulate the level of financial inclusion. So it's important that governments, central banks, and public parties invest in the infrastructure, in the national financial infrastructure. So channel of larger volumes of payments through transaction accounts increases absolutely the overall efficiency of the payment system of a certain country. That's stated here. The next. We see a lot of possible barriers, and they are analyzed in this report. Before the report states 7 guiding principles for the development of payment systems. First of all, sometimes banks or non-banks requires ask from the consumer high fees, and if you have a very low income, you can't afford a bank account. This challenge one. These are a lot of economies that are very they could have an informal sector, and you have to think the thought that the informal sector is there, then also the will be also more informal. Like cash aspect is that promoting the use of electronic payments, means that you have absolutely pay attention to gender-specific aspects, but also to cultural and religious needs and limited awareness, and that for literacy will be stimulated. Is that sometimes the transaction accounts are poor designed, and the same with related payment services. Or a barrier could be that some people think, having an account is unsafe. Other people can have access to the account. Of course, it's not the case, but it's important that customers' perceptions are taken into account. Next slide, please. The House of Payments was built, and to a robust infrastructure for payments, we have absolutely some needs. First, to have a good financial ICT infrastructure, the foundations, a law and regulatory framework, a central bank or a Ministry of Finance that is responsible, that there is absolutely public and private sector commitment, that there is some competition, and then we have the Catholic pillars that are drivers of access and usage. First is to develop good transaction accounts, the available access points, awareness promotion, financial literacy, and of course, in the roof, we have the universal access to frequent usage of transaction accounts. So this house is analyzed in the report in the form of seven principles. First one is, of course, the commitment from the public and private sector. There's legal framework, robust and safe ICT infrastructure. Third, transaction account that it really meets the needs of the target population. That's useful. That individuals gain knowledge and that they are aware about how it operates, and it will be used by a lot of people, so that large volume and recurrent payment streams, including remittances, are becoming more and more electronic, and then you can stimulate inclusion. This of the report, it's very good to and well illustrated with a lot of examples, also examples of Europe, but it's nice to read. So absolutely recommended to use this. Next slide, please. A few words about the situation in the Netherlands. I think in the Netherlands, maybe another click. In the Netherlands, there it is. Access to the system is not the biggest challenge, but for the coming times, due to the further digitization, we also have the problem that still other people on board. For example, more and more we are moving in the Netherlands to the usage of more contactless wallets. And a wallet, a contactless mobile wallet, there you have, for example, your debit card, your credit card. There you have access to the public transport system, or access how you could order a pizza during the evening. So this is for people. Some people it's rather complicated to use the mobile. Elderly people think it is difficult to navigate. How can I do this? So financial access, keeping it is absolutely challenging. The second factor is consumer protection. I think in a lot of countries, also in the Netherlands, this can be this level of consumer protection can be improved, and to learn people how to behave themselves. Not much credit, save for the future. The adagium in the past, but you are consuming today and you have to pay it in the future, you really take financial risk for yourself, consumer, but also at the macroeconomic level. Slide, please. Next, one click, Simona. Yeah, so this is what I just stated, that this absolutely paid more attention to financial resilience at the individual level, but also for the economy. You think on the societal cost if you will spend too much money. And in the end, if you have no good financial inclusion, it could jeopardize the situation of financial stability, the equality, the social cohesion. And pensions, we have in the Netherlands a big discussion between young people and older people. Younger people would like to have an own personalized pension, and elderly people are more, let's have more solidarity, that we have one big saving amount of money for paying pensions, etc. So, next slide, please. Here you see the interaction between the relation between financial resilience and financial behavior, microeconomic outcomes, and how is the interaction between the microeconomic aspects and macroeconomic aspects, and skills, attitudes, social contexts are. Some examples are coming. Next slide, please. To the notion of responsible financial behavior, And we have in the Netherlands, it's also an international firm. Our body is money-wise. Wijze geldzaken, do we call it in the Netherlands, is to translate sound money management, good financial planning, and choosing financial products. And we see, for example, and we are out of the financial crisis, but in the recent years, we saw a lot of households with payment arrears, or a lot of more experience with overdraft and out of balance of accounts, is the usage of credit cards that are indications that the money management is absolutely not well. Next, please. Financial plan is we skipped. Choose financial. No, next. Yeah, this one, Simona. Choose financial products. We can say buy simple financial products because that's important. That you can compare product characteristics also from the point of consumer protection. We have a very active consumer union in the Netherlands, and on their website you can compare comparisons between the different aspects of payment accounts of the certain banks. If you buy more complex financial products, it's very important that you take time for it to understand and then manage them. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, some illustrations about the point of financial literacy in the Netherlands. We spoke about the youth in the past, this group with problems, but also elderly people. Do people really know how much pension they will get? That's also the next slide, please. To the last 5 minutes of my part of today, and some illustrations that you saw that had overdrafts on their accounts. Yes, please. And do you get a payment reminder because you hadn't paid a bill in time? I can tell you that it's more clear how people get a payment reminder, but in Europe and in the Netherlands we see more and more that you are getting bills via different channels. You're getting bills by post, you're getting bill email, or are getting bills via an SMS. And due to different channels, also myself, sometimes it's difficult to have overview about all your bills you have to pay. And of course, you can promote the usage of a debit system, but sometimes direct debits, it's absolutely helpful that there's a regular connection for monthly payments. Direct debit system will help, but we are paying now as central bank in the Netherlands more and more attention to the number of different channels that people receive bills. And sometimes it causes arrears. Next, please. Yeah, we can skip this. Next slide, please. Okay, this I know in all countries there is the money week in the end of March, and here we cooperate with the Ministry of Finance and the central bank, and also private parties. We are doing a lot of, we are making brochures, we are making documents, we are issuing, promoting of sound money usage. But I'm absolutely interested in the case of Macedonia because they have an active regime for this. Next slide, please. the national strategy that has to be renewed this year. It states that access is not a problem at the moment. Take care of digital access, but the resilience could be improved, and also consumer protection. This is our national strategy. Yes, next slide, please. Yeah. Also, the OECD, European organization, is very active in promoting about financial products. Next slide, please, Simon. You can. This is every country has its National Money Week, also Macedonia. Yes, slide, please. Yeah, learning. Of course, how do people learn? You can read it there because you all are getting the slide. I have two subjects. The next slide, please. Two subjects. I think it is good if you build an index for financial inclusion, maybe based on the data in the global Fintech index. And of course, it's important to be aware. What's the question? Do you need a comparison in time? Would you like to compare changes, or would you like to make a comparison with other countries? Next. And if you know the goal of your index, then you can say, I need figures of access to financial services, demand, the quality, level of literacy, as SME financing, etc. Next one, please. Very, I think, is governance. Good governance. We have the governance model of our national forum. It means that supply side and demand side are discussing relevant developments in payment systems with for example, efficiency of payments, security, promotion of electronic payments, and to diminish the level of paper-based payments, cash payments, financial inclusion, innovation, and instant payments. That are a lot of subjects in the meeting of a national forum that we are discussing. Come to the conclusions. So next slide, please. There are slides. I think that the success solutions, innovative payment solutions to stimulate financial inclusion depends on developing user-friendliness products with great value of new payment products. The secure should be reachable for all people. Right? For example, it's a good habit in the Netherlands that you have in every 5 kilometers an ATM, that they are accessible also for vulnerable groups. We have an efficient cross-channel market infrastructure. We have a robust infrastructure that is a well-organized governance model where you will find the balance between competition and cooperation. And there's a clear role for governments, central banks, and private organizations. Next slide, please. If you look at promising payment developments, I think that contactless payments with debit cards, but also with credit cards, are really promising. And really places where a lot of consumers meet. For example, a rail station. People all would like to buy a newspaper, and there's a big queue or a coffee. It's absolutely important that there is no queuing, or as least as possible. The payments is the new payment world. I think instant payments means, in a sense, instant receivement of the money, that you can use it again. The account is related to Payment Services Directive 2 in Europe, but I know that's there in a lot of other countries. And maybe for the future, DLT, distributed ledger technology, is a very important innovation. And you look to financial inclusion. I think promote financial access is absolutely essential, but help people that that they are trained, good education, promote sound financial behavior and financial resilience. And very happy. Last week we have had a very unique and great conference together with the National Bank of the Republic of Macedonia in Ohrid with the theme "Let's Get Digital." I was there with some colleagues and also Simona. I learned there a lot about the stimulation of more digital payment products, but also not too digital. In the end, we think it is important that people can also use cash due to its unique characteristics. Let's get, but also let's get digital. That's in a nutshell my presentation. Simona, it's up to you. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Michael, for this comprehensive presentation. We really liked you, the way you presented and you informed, you shared your national experience in the Netherlands. Of course, it's good that you mentioned the conference in Ohrid, where the main conclusion was, yes, want less cash, but not cashless
Indeed.
economy. Yeah. Here, I would also like to thank to Judith, who was following you in a perfect manner. So she shared the links for the reports that you recommend to us, so that the audience can easily access the reports without putting some additional effort. So since we have to stick to our time schedule, I will now make a handover to our second expert, Mr. Igor Velichkovsky. Just a second. Okay. Gregor, can you give me the right to share first my screen so that I can make the intro to Igor, and then we will continue? Okay. Just to let you know that Igor is head of the payment systems department at the National Bank of Republic of Macedonia, and today he will talk about the connection between the payment systems and financial inclusion, and will provide the national Macedonian experience. So Igor, here the floor is yours.
It's thanks to here attending the webinar from many different countries around the world. Can you see, just check whether you can see my presentation? Yep. Okay.
Yes, but both of the screens.
My
okay.
Could you help us a little bit with it? Is it okay?
Yes, just switch to slideshow, please.
Okay.
We see again the two slides. The two screens, sorry.
Yep. Is it now?
Yes, it's excellent. Thank you, Igor.
I'm sorry for this slight inconvenience.
No problem.
So I will talk today about the role of system in supporting and enhancing financial inclusion in Macedonia, and explore this issue in a more comparative context in Europe and globally. So the agenda of today's presentation is focused on payment infrastructure in Macedonia and the latest cashless payment trends. We will also explore the relationship between e-commerce and financial inclusion, since it's an important one in a digital age. And we will summarize the current status of the relationship between payment infrastructure and financial inclusion. At the end of the presentation, we will focus on the activities that are done by the National Bank of Republic of Macedonia, our regulatory bodies in the country, in order to support financial inclusion, as well as we will focus on new technologies and how they can impact the payment systems and improve the financial inclusion in the future. So let's start with the payment infrastructure. We have payment systems in Macedonia. MIPS is Macedonian RTGS system, which used mainly for large value and urgent payments. So, the system is operated by the National Bank of the Republic of Macedonia. They have two retail payment systems. KIPS actually clearing house, which occurs and nets credit transfers. It is private company, and we have also CASIS, which is domestic payment card schemes, another private company that operates this payment system. Apart from domestic payment systems which are registered by National Bank of Macedonia, we have presence of international payment card schemes such as Visa, MasterCard, Diners, and American Express. So who can provide or who can access these payment systems in the country? Mainly banks, but also NRM for sets of its clients, and of course the treasuries of the Ministry of Finance and health insurance funds, which provide services for budgetary users. I mentioned that we have transposed some provisions from PSD1 in the past and allow non-bank payment service providers to actually provide payment services indirectly via banks. So in this case, these are mainly telcos and small companies that provide payment services. Yet do not have direct access to systems currently, but we are working on this issue, and probably in the future we will allow access to non-companies to payment systems. I will focus this issue a little bit. I focus on this issue more deeply a little bit later. Now I would like to present figures about the payment infrastructure that supports functioning of payment systems. How can actually, as a payment system, payment users access the payment systems? We need to have a payment account and payment cards. So most of the Macedonians have payment accounts in the financial institutions, mainly banks. So we are 2 million people, 1.7 million of them are deposited in the financial companies or in the banks, and have or they hold 3.8 million of payment accounts. Most of them are held by natural persons, around 95%, and legal entities hold around 5% of payment accounts. What's important about having payment accounts nowadays is not just opening payment account, but also can we use it online? Can we access the payment account from places to see the bank statements, or to initiate electronic payments? And from these statistics, we can notice that around 20% of payment accounts held by natural persons accessed online for reports, for bank statements, and only 7% for initiating electronic payments. The little bit brighter for legal entities, around 30% of them have access to bank accounts electronically and can initiate electronic payments. Apart from payment accounts, payment cards are also important payment tool or instrument to initiate payments, and we have, or domestic banks have issued around 1.8 million of payment cards, which means that almost each resident or each deponent in the banks has a payment card. 30% of them are contactless. You can pay payments at the shop. And mostly we use Visa and MasterCard. Around 60% of the payments card in the country are branded Visa and 37% are MasterCard. Most of the cards are debit, around 80%, and the rest is credit cards. As for the infrastructure for using cards, we have over 1,000 of ATMs in the country. A smaller part of them, all of them can be used for withdrawing cash, and smaller part can be used, also share can be used for depositing cash and initiating credit transfers. Around 32,000 point of sale terminals are present at shops in Macedonia. Half of them are contactless, providing easier service to the customers. In competitive context, we are more like most of the countries in Central and Eastern Europe in terms of having infrastructure for making or for initiating card payments. Nevertheless, in terms of financial inclusion, I would like to emphasize that substantial part of this infrastructure is located in larger retailers and in the big cities. Small cities and small shops usually do not have enough point of sale terminals and ATMs to support financial inclusion in the country, and this is something we have to work extend in the future. Another issue that is important to mention in a digital age is that we have less virtual point of sale terminals, which means that Macedonian companies really provide opportunities for buying online. We use payment cards for buying online. We mainly use foreign online shops. And this is another area where the government policy can help to support financial inclusion. The latest data from Global Fintech, which refers to 2017, discovered that or confirmed that most of Macedonians have payment accounts in the bank. Almost 80% of respondents confirmed that they have account, and almost 70% of the poorest 40 in terms of income also have a bank account. And in comparison with the world average and our peers from Europe and Central Asia, we stand relatively well, and we are lagging behind high-income countries, mainly OECD countries. And a payment account in a bank is not enough to conclude that we have relatively high financial inclusion in the country. An important aspect of having payment account in the bank is how to use actually this payment account, and most of Macedonians receive wages and salaries on payment account. In imperative context, you can notice the last the blue part, the light blue part, is similar to the part for high-income countries. So we receive salaries and pension payment accounts, but on the other hand, we rely much on cash for making payments in shops or paying bills, which makes us similar to our peers from Europe and Central Asia and average for the world. What the latest trends in cashless payments? In terms of number of payments, most of the payments are, or let's say substantial part of the payments are executed by international card schemes. Domestic payment systems, KIPS and MIPS and CASIS have 1/4 in total payments. Together, MIPS has just 4% in volume, but MIPS dominate in value, and it is logical given that it's a system for value payments where financial institutions and large companies execute their payments. Another aspect is which of payment instruments we use in the country, and that we rely mainly on credit transfer and payment cards. Checks and direct debits are also popular in Macedonia. In terms of value, credit transfers dominate with 99%, and in terms of credit cards are becoming more popular recently, and they increased the share in 2017 by 5 percentage points and reached 43% in total number of payments. Initiate, having in mind that credit transfers dominate in the total volume, how do we initiate the credit transfers is also important aspects of financial inclusion. And you notice that there are sectoral differences. How legal entities rely on electronic initiation. But in the case of natural persons, only 20% of credit transfers were initiated electronically in 2017, which suggests that we have to work on education of the individuals and households and support them in making use of electronic initiation of credit transfers. Regarding the devices we use for initiation of credit transfers, legal entities mostly rely on computers. On the other hand, natural persons use personal computers mainly, but nowadays mobile devices and even ATMs are becoming interesting and popular for usage. In the European context, we notice that Macedonians are not exception. Credit transfers and payment cards are also popular in Europe and the dominant payment instruments. Also old members of the EU, but new members of the EU mainly rely on these two types of instruments. What's interesting, if you look at individual countries, we can notice that the Czech Republic is at the top of the countries in the EU that rely on credit transfers. Over 60% of the credit transfer, over 60% of the payments are initiated in Czech Republic using credit transfers. On the other hand, payment cards are very popular in Czech. They participate with almost over 80% in total payments. We can see, on the other hand, that Germany is the country of direct debit instruments. Almost or over 50% of payments are initiated by using direct debits. These are popular in Cyprus and electronic money in Italy. So Macedonians do not differ very much from typical behavior of Europeans. Nevertheless, we are different in terms of method of initiating credit transfers. You notice that all the member countries mainly rely on electronic ways initiating credit transfer. Over 90% of transfer are initiated electronically in all EU members. Really high percentage applies to member states. 8% on the other hand, in Macedonia, only 42% of the credit transfers are initiated electronically. In Europe, from electronic point of initiation credit transfers is Estonia, Ireland, and Czech Republic. On the other hand, Macedonians are similar to Italians and Bulgarians, where paper-based transfers have a very large share in total credit transfers. Transfers, payment cards very used in our countries, and the recent Survey of global fintechs confirmed that over 50% of Macedonians possess direct payment card, and around 20% possess credit card, which is similar to the world average and Europe, but we are lagging behind high-income countries. Although most of Macedonians have payment cards, different aspects of Macedonia were that we use payment cards mainly for withdrawing cash, and this is quite much different than behavior of typical Europeans from all members of the EU. You notice that Nordic countries and UK mainly use payment cards for paying in stores, whether physically or buying online. They use it rarely or much less for withdrawing cash. In comparison with the old EU members, we are more like Greeks. On the other, some have new EU members where dominates cash withdrawing or cash usage. Using payment cards for buying goods and services is very popular in Estonia, and also you can notice Poland and Slovenia to some extent. In other countries, we mainly dominantly use it for withdrawing cash. In this context, we are similar with Bulgaria and other transition countries from the new EU members. Having account and having a payment card is not to conclude that we are supportive to financial inclusion. Nowadays, in a digital age, it's very important to be able to buy online, and in this context, new payment solutions can help much to increase financial inclusion, even in a case if the individuals do not have a payment card. So innovative e-commerce solutions have potential to increase the financial inclusion and to enable customers to move from brick and mortar stores to online stores. In this context, I would mention the payment initiation services that are offered nowadays and supported by the EU regulation PSD2, which opens the door for new payment service providers, innovative one that will allow us to move from cash to online payments. If we see the figures in this context that were recently published by Eurostat, we notice that on average in 2017, all 60% of Europeans shopped online, and this percentage increased by 13 percentage points during the last 5 years. So online shopping is becoming very popular, and in some countries like UK and Nordic countries, where 80% of the individual shops online. But still, there are other countries in Europe, old EU members like Greece, Italy, where less than 30% of individuals shops online, which is similar to some new EU members. Macedonia lags behind in this context. Only 15% of individuals shopped online in 2017. There are some progress, around 5 percentage points increase in 2012, but we are still substantially lagging behind some advanced transition countries and also old EU members. And in this context, we are similar to Romania, Bulgaria, and Montenegro. Macedonia usually buy less frequently online. You can notice on the graph on the bottom of the slide on the right-hand side that most of Macedonians buy once to twice in 2007 during the last 3 months. On the other hand, Europeans, or over 60% of Europeans, bought online goods and services 3 times during the last 3 months. When we buy online, we usually spend less than €3, and most of the Europeans spend between 100 and 500 euros when they buy online. So in this context, we need, this is kind of reflection also of the living standard, but still to some extent also to think our behavior in moving from brick and mortar stores to online shops. We usually buy clothes and sport goods, buy online, and the shopping of typical European is more diversified. Also includes in the basket travel and hotel arrangements and household products. Just another indicator that was recently published by Global Fintech that supports the data from Eurostat that we lag behind most of the European countries in terms of buying online and paying bills online. We are lagging to some extent even behind the average and our peers from Europe and Central Asia. So this is one area where we have to be more active in the future. What is the current status of the relationship between payment infrastructure and financial inclusion? We can summarize shortly that current payment infrastructure is supportive to financial inclusion, given that most of Macedonians have access to payment system by holding accounts in the financial institutions, their wages and pensions in the payments accounts. Many point of sales are installed at or are present at the shops across the country, and most Macedonians have payment cards to buy at these shops. In terms of digitalization, electronic credit transfers are increasing their share, and online shopping is becoming more popular, but still the gap with the EU is relatively large. So we can notice that cash is widely used in the country to buy. Some latest statistics suggest that almost, or actually more of 4% of the, in terms of the payments in stores, is done with cash, which means that a small share of this is initiated by using payment cards. So the slow digitalization brought the country to some extent with the further progress in terms of financial inclusion in the country. But what is important now is what we currently do, what activities we are undertaking to support financial inclusion. The National Bank of the Republic of Macedonia for several years in a row is implementing the financial education project. It's a national project, and several other regulatory bodies, including the Ministry of Finance, are included in this project. The National Bank is mainly to organize national and international events to support financial inclusion, education, and literacy, and we usually publish leaflets, brochure, and also some books. Organize events mainly focused to the youngest, to primary schools, where we emphasize the role of saving and how to manage debt, how to take credit and loan. We focus on educating the youngest population how to be able to manage personal finances in the future, and how to enhance their education in this area. Aspects which is really important for supporting financial inclusion is giving access to new payment service providers to payment systems. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have intention to allow non-banking entities to have access in the future, to have direct access actually in the future to payment systems. And we believe that in this way we will increase the competition in the financial sector, but also increase or enable easier access to those individuals that have currently problems in terms of accessing bank services, in particular payment services. What we've done last year in terms of supporting financial inclusion to some extent is that we established a link to target 2 payment system of the Euro system for cross-border payments in Europe, and or actually we enable domestic banks to initiate and execute payments where our RTGS system, which is indirectly linked to target 2, which kind of alternative to correspondent banking and has some benefits and advantages in terms of cost efficiency and speed of executing payments. Another important aspect is that we are working on enhance the regulation in the country. We are in the process of transposing several directives, PSD2 Payment Account Directive, Interchange Fee Regulation, E-Money 2 Directive, and Settlement Finality Directive. We believe that by adopting the new law, which is expected to happen by the end of the year, we will increase the competition in the country, enable open banking, and increase the consumer protection. So in this way, new payment service providers will enable the access to payment services for the least financially included in the country. Also, be aware that cash payments are very present in the country, and that's why we prepared a strategy at the beginning of 2018 in cooperation with the Ministry of Finance and the banking industry to reduce the usage of cash in the countries. The strategy has plenty of market-based but also regulatory, educational, and promotive measures which we expect that will enhance the financial inclusion in the future. So, given we are having a few minutes more, I will just focus at the last slide on the possible impact of the new technologies on payment systems and inclusion in a positive context. The way we pay today has, or in the recent years, has changing substantially and has changed quite much in comparison with the previous century. And this is a result of widespread usage of mobile phones and access to internet. But the landscape for digital payments nowadays is changing quite much, and this is driven by the new generation of technologies, in particular DLT. Companies are exploiting aggressive DLT technology in order to increase the efficiency in clearing settlement and payments. So we expect that fintech companies provide new innovative solutions that will make payments easier, faster, and cheaper. In this context, fintech entry is also particularly important in cross-border payments area. We face relatively high costs and quite much lags in settlement of transactions. I would mention in this context Ripple, which provides company established by several financial institutions and provides P2P payments based on DLT. From fintech companies, central banks are not standing aside. They explore the DLT. There's around currently by developed countries. In particular, I will mention the project which is run by ECB and Bank of Japan, the Stella project, then the Blockbuster project run by Bundesbank and Deutsche Börse, and Jasper project of Bank of Canada. All of them are focused on market infrastructure, financial market infrastructure, and mainly on payment systems. The initial results suggest that current payment infrastructure and payment systems provide quite good services to pay service providers, but if new technologies, DLT, are used and relate with, in a broader context, with financial market ecosystems such as central securities depositories and exchanges, securities exchanges, that many benefits may arise in terms of reconciliation of transaction collateral management, then cost saving in these processes. However, the focus nowadays is a little bit slightly changing from exploiting DLT in the payment system areas to digital currencies issued by central banks. Academia, central bankers are discussing nowadays and raising many issues how we can issue as a central bankers digital currencies in the future. How who should have access to digital cash issued by the central bank? Whether this access should be to public or to some payment service providers, including banks, but also other entities. Decide to give access to other public, then the central bank have to increase their capacities quite much in terms of giving full set of services to the general public, electronic banking, then all those statements and communication, which might be quite burden for the central bank. So the issue is now whether to give further access or to rely on some set of private companies and banks to provide digital cash. Then other issues that we have to explore: the digital cash issued by central banks should generate interest, and if it generates, how it will affect the monetary policy implementation. We expect that the transmission process will be enhanced and will be faster. The implementation will be more efficient, but we also have to take financial stability implications, given that allowing access to digital cash to general public in some stressful times will that they will easily switch from commercial banks cash or deposits to central bank digital cash, which will affect negatively the stability of the banking system. And in systems, in this case, the central bank has to intervene to support the banking sector, and then also to take care of collaterals, how to support the commercial bank sector, what type of collaterals to accept, to probably the current frame eligible collateral. So all issues have to be analyzed deeply and explored cautiously before we decide whether we should go in this direction as a central banks. I would not discuss even further regarding the central bank digital currencies, given the time constraints. All this is very interesting. I would just at the end conclude that the new technologies which are exploited and explored by fintech companies are expected to improve financial inclusion by allowing broader access to payment systems, increase the speed of payments, reduce the costs of executing payments, and in particular, one important issue is enhancing security of payments. In this context, the central bank Israel will have even higher role in supporting financial inclusion, given that it is expected that at some point of time they will likely move to new generation of payment systems, DLT, and use this technology maybe also to issue digital cash. So I will stop here and I will thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Igor, very much for your great presentation. Thanks for sharing the highlights of the Macedonian national experience and for addressing the challenges for the future for central bankers, which will be brought by the fintech companies. Um, so let's continue. Gregor, I would like to ask you to give the right to share my screen. Okay. So that were the presentations by our experts from the Dutch Central Bank and from the Macedonian Central Bank. I would like to inform you that the recording of this webinar and their presentations will be available to you on the CF Dropbox right after the finishing of this webinar. Also, you will receive an evaluation survey. I would like kindly to ask you to fill it in because through this survey we gain valuable inputs for the next events that we are organizing, and of course we would like to offer you topics that are interested and up to date for you. Was brought as part of the Central Banking Program of the Center of Excellence in Finance for 2018, and with this webinar we conclude the first half of our program for this year. During the summer we are making a short break, but we are continuing right after in September. We will start first with one webinar in September on collateral management, and later in October we have a workshop on wholesale payments and of course financial market developments. We have in November 2 additional workshops. One is on serious forecasting and data quality, and the last one is on NPL resolution. On the links below you can read more about the central banking program, and we hope that you will find interesting topics for you, and we also have the possibility to meet you in person at the CF. More about the CF program you can on our website and of course on the CF online learning campus, where all our learning courses are listed. Additionally, I would like to invite you to register on the Line Ministries portal, which is a portal where experience and knowledge is shared among public officials in Southeast Europe. If you have any questions, please feel free to share them on emails below, and I will forward them to our experts so that they can answer you in a written manner, and we'll share them also on the CF Dropbox. So slowly we are approaching to the end of this webinar. I would like to thank to our experts from the Dutch Central Bank, Michael and Judith, and to Igor from the National Bank of Republic of Macedonia for their comprehensive presentations. Additionally, I would like to thank you to all the participants for being here. Without you, we wouldn't have made it. And last but not the least, I would like to thank to my colleagues of the CF from the event management team and from the online learning team. So yes, that would be everything for today. Thank you for being here. I wish you a great day and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.